For some reason, I always thought that washing your hair was meant to make it more tame. Anyhow, hello everyone, Hamish here once again, and welcome to another episode of Musical Musings. This is the series where I choose a few albums which I've been enjoying, and I share them with you. Now today I'm embarking on a bit of a game of catch-up, because I haven't done one of these in a year, so I want to go back to the start of last year and choose a few records which I really connected to during that time. The first of these is called Plastic House on Base of Sky. It's by a band called Kayo. Now whether you knew it or not, Kayo has had quite an influence on this channel, because I took the name the Manifold.Curiosity from one of their songs. They're an experimental group based in New York City, run by a man called Toby Driver, and their music is able to find its way into my consciousness in a way that very few other bands are able to. There's something very subtle about Kayo's creations, but there's also something really daring and dazzling about them, which I would say are able to touch my soul. There's a very special quality to this, which is sort of ineffable, but I always look for in their music. On my first listen to this album, I didn't really know what to make of it. And that's often a good sign for a Kayo record, because it means you're in for something pretty amazing. What I mean is that with the first track here, Amalia's Theme, I felt a bit lost amidst these dense synth lines. And then when the drums rush in, I just felt buffeted about, because they have this unusual, jumpy, sort of clicky tone to them, which I was not expecting. However, after a few listens, I was able to step back a bit and appreciate this song, as well as quite a few others on this record, for its intricate architecture. There is something strangely vast about this record, especially considering how dense and compact the production seems to be. And I feel I'm swept off my feet with the last section of Amalia's Theme, when you have the synth line from the beginning recurring over a different rhythmic backdrop. And it's like a moment of completion, of realization. It's really amazing. This band is unafraid of entering new dimensions, and they take us along with them. It might take you a few listens, but do give this one a go. The next record I want to talk about is something quite different. This is an absolute classic. It's called The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. It's by Charles Mingus and his band. This may well be my favorite jazz record. Ever since I first put it on, it has just blown me away more consistently than I can possibly tell you. This is a riotous, often outrageous piece of jazz in the way that these brass instruments work off each other, yelp and wail and snort as if you're listening to a turbulent crowd of animals. Yet on the other hand, this album has such melodic expressiveness that it's able to really pull at your heartstrings. I think it's a great credit to Mingus as the leader of this band, he also plays bass, that he's able to combine these different elements into a living, breathing beast of an album. And it truly does feel alive. As I mentioned, the way these instruments work off each other, there are times when the drums will gradually, almost imperceptibly, just pick up pace and pick up volume, and likewise all the brass instruments are just thrumming with vigor, and it feels like you're entering some sort of Dionysian party. Like, it's just mad. You feel that something absolutely manic is going to burst forth, and often it does. Yeah, that will be balanced shortly afterwards by a sort of flamenco guitar interlude, performed by the same guy who played guitar on Astral Weeks by Van Morrison, one of my favorite records ever, so that's really cool. And then of course those sweet gripping melodies emerge out of that. You know, if I was to compare this album to any other piece of music, it would be The Rite of Spring by Igor Stravinsky. That's an incredible classical piece from the early 20th century. And I think both this record and that are similar in their sort of unity of vision. Both pieces of music have a real forward momentum, but also in the way that they balance a kind of primal rhythmic urge with a quite sophisticated melody. You really ought to check this album out. It is, in modern terms, absolute fire. Next record I want to speak about, I actually listened to more this year than last year, but I saw this band live just last night, so I feel inspired to talk about them. The album is called Flying Microtonal Banana, and it's by a band called King Gizzard and the Gizzard, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, excuse me. So, first, the show I saw last night, it was phenomenal. King Gizzard are a local band, and I've never witnessed so much energy on stage. It was incredible. Such a spectacle to see, because they have 3 guitarists, 3 vocalists, 2 drummers, a bassist, a keyboardist, and they work together in such unison. They're a sort of band of comrades, it seems. They're so dedicated to the art of their psychedelic music. So yes, they're a psych rock band who I really admire, because they're definitely emulating a lot of the stuff from late 60s, early 70s, but they are really developing a unique style as well. And that's so evident on this record here. So why is the record named Flying Microtonal Banana? Well, it's named after the frontman's guitar, and it's got extra frets placed on it so as to access the sumptuous world of microtonal music. Now, I can only give a basic explanation of microtonal music. In essence, we can think of the Western musical scale as being composed of 12 notes. However, there's nothing stopping us from further dividing those notes into however many we wish, and that's precisely what the band has done on this record. I'd already had a bit of experience with microtonal music because when I was in Turkey a few years ago, I did some cursory research into native Turkish music, and I found out that there was a long Anatolian tradition of microtones. So my ears started to adjust to it back then. But still, when you hear this record for the first time, you can perceive it as being just a bit out of tune, which I love because it gives a sort of mesmerizing, slightly otherworldly quality to this record, which is exactly what a good psychedelic rock band should aspire to transport the listener to anyway. This album can be downright mesmerizing. It can be really groovy. My favorite songs on here, like Sleep Drifter, which is just the perfect bedtime song, and also Open Water, which captures the terror of feeling vulnerable in the ocean really well. They both show this band's willingness to experiment with dynamics. They both show the band's conceptual vision, which I find really impressive. And they also show a kind of melodic inventiveness, which is accessible only through the use of microtones. So credit to King Gizzard. They put out 5 albums last year, can you believe it? They're a fantastic band, check them out. I know I've only discussed a few records and there are many more to go, but I'm going to finish this video here today. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got any recommendations, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think of these albums, and I will see you very shortly. Farewell.